Hey everyone, I'm John Lynn, the founder and chief editor at Healthcare IT Today. We're excited to talk about an interesting telehealth company that takes, I think, a really unique approach to the telehealth world. And we all know how that's exploded during COVID. So we're excited to be here with Brandon Welch. He's CEO and founder of DoxyMe. Welcome, Brandon.
Hey, happy to be here.
Yeah, so before we start, tell us a little bit about yourself and DoxyMe.
Yeah, so I'm actually a professor at the Medical University of South Carolina. My background is in biomedical informatics, and so um, I have a background in genetics and biology, and I did my PhD at the University of Utah in biomedical informatics. And my work was all around like more decision support for genetics and stuff like that. But while I was there as a student, I was working on a project where we wanted to provide remote care to pregnant moms. A lot of pregnant moms don't need to come in for a in-person visit every time. So how can we give that care to them more efficiently? And so we had the idea of using telemedicine. This is back in 2012, 2013. And
Wow.
as a student and as this project, we're like, we just need something simple and free. We don't have the money for it. So let's just use FaceTime or Skype. And we wanted to use that, and the university was like, no, you can't use FaceTime or Skype for telemedicine visits. And I'm like, all right, so okay, let's find HIPAA compliant telemedicine solutions free. And I Googled that and nothing came up. And I was like, how is there not a free telemedicine solution out there? All the telemedicine solutions at the time were expensive. This is the heyday of Cisco and Polycom, and so they had this hardware you had to buy, and it's thousands of dollars per month per endpoint. You had to have a technician go set it up, and we're like, this is not. I mean, FaceTime can do it, Skype can do it. Why can't somebody in telemedicine create a HIPAA compliant solution? And so at the University of Utah, they're very entrepreneurial there, so they have a lot of business competitions and student innovation ideas. And so I actually put the idea into a student innovation contest for a simple and free HIPAA compliant telemedicine solution. And it won the Consumer's Choice Award. So we got $3,000, and we were like, awesome, let's go like build a prototype of it. So we built a prototype of it, and we actually used it in that study. And when we rolled it out into that study, the providers loved it, the patients loved it. They loved that they didn't have anything to download or nothing to click, because back then WebRTC was very early and we jumped on it. And we started building it, and then people were like, so providers were like, oh, it'd be nice to have like a waiting room, because sometimes my patients are back to back and I'm running late. And so can we have a waiting room and a patient queue? And so they started asking for these features. We're like, sure, let's build it. And we kept going back and submitting the idea to competitions and different startup funds through the university for students. And over the 3 years as a student there, we cobbled together about $25,000 in competition winnings and awards and stuff. And that's what we built DoxyMe with, was just these student competition winnings and awards. And by the time I graduated, we had a functional product that we said, hey, we've got a simple free telemedicine solution. Let's give it away. And so we rolled it out, and DoxyMe became a company. I moved here to South Carolina, and I was doing my faculty research and teaching and stuff like that. While this is going, we didn't really have a huge amount of investment in it. We're just, hey, it's free to use, and it just slowly grew organically. And it was nice. It allowed it to mature in the time that it needed. We didn't force it too fast. A lot of times we focused more on the product. We didn't really focus on marketing or sales. In fact, for 3 years, we didn't even have a marketing team. We spent $0 on marketing, and it just grew organically by word of mouth. It grew nice. And we had about 80,000 users about this time last year, which was great. It was mostly word of mouth. We didn't really spend anything in Google Ads or anything like that. We had really good SEO placement. So we type in free telemedicine, we came up #1 because we're the only one out there. And then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, everybody said, crap, I need telemedicine, and I don't want to spend a lot of money on it. I need something simple, and I want it to be free. And so, and people often ask, what are you using? And we use Doximity. Okay. And so we grew from about 70 to 80,000 users to 750,000 users. And these are providers in a matter of 2-3 months. And that's where we're at.
I would argue that you did have marketing. It's called free, the free is the marketing, right? I mean, that's a cost of marketing, is offering a free product. But let's dive into that section of it. Like, how can you really offer a free telemedicine solution? Like, is it really free? And, I'm sure people come across you say, wait, what's the catch, right? So explain to people how you can offer a free one.
Yeah, to a couple hundred providers, it's free, and it'll always be free. The base version, which is just a simple way for me as a provider to connect with my patient by video, that's free. It's unlimited minutes, unlimited sessions. It is HIPAA compliant. And our mission fundamentally as a company and as a product is we want to make telemedicine available to all. And we don't want cost or complexity to be a barrier to receiving or a provider using telemedicine. And so we remove those barriers and say it's simple to use and it's free, go use it. The way we make money is it's a freemium product. And so if you want the additional bells and whistles, if you want screen sharing, if you want to collect payments, if you want group calling, if you want your own logo on it instead of the Doximity logo, you want your brand on there. If you want to have multiple providers under one account and they can share rooms, so all these other bells and whistles that we offer, then you upgrade to the professional, clinic, or enterprise version. That's what you pay for. But this approach has worked well, and we're able to be we're sustainable as a business, cash flow positive, and we don't have any outside investors, and so it's worked out well for us.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think for those of us in startup world understand freemium really well, but I think a lot of doctors don't understand how that works. So thanks for explaining. So you do have the 3 tiers. You have the free, the professional, and the clinic. When would someone want to use those different tiers?
Yeah, we actually have 4, the enterprise tier.
Enterprise as well. Okay.
So the free is for individual providers. So one provider, I just need to connect with my patient by video. They sign up for free. Professional is still for individual providers, but you get the additional bells and whistles of the
branding.
Right. Well, no, actually no branding. And professional.
No branding. Okay, you have to wait for the group. Okay.
You get notifications and different bells and whistles. But when you move up to when you have 2 or more providers and you want them under the same account and the same branding, they each have their own room, but you want to maybe give access to the other one. That's when you move up to clinic. And clinic is designed for between 2 and 50 providers. So these are small clinics. You might have an MA checking patients in, and then each provider has their own room, and you share room access. You get your own logo and stuff, and that's been our really bread and butter as a company and a product. Is especially pre-COVID, we were very much in that niche of individual providers upgrading to professional and small clinics like. Clinics about 5 to 10. They can't afford the huge enterprise deals of Amwell or the MD Live or some of those other big competitors. And we actually avoided the large enterprise clients. We were focused bottom down market type users, not on the big enterprise clients. And so, but when COVID hit, you had these huge whales of customers coming and said, hey, we need this up and running now. We don't have time to do long onboarding. We don't have time for all this other stuff. We need to get going now. And we say, yeah, you can sign up. It'll take you 10 minutes into your credit card and add all the users you want. And so we're able to onboard these large enterprises of thousands of users in a matter of hours. And that came in really handy. And that essentially, we didn't really sell to the enterprise customers, but COVID changed that. And so they all came to us, we signed them up. We signed them up under a clinic, a really large clinic, but we also recognize that these enterprises wanted more things. They wanted training, they wanted a dedicated customer support rep manager. They wanted some more single sign-on, which we supported. And so what we've done is we've added all these enterprise level clients, and then we've gone and caught up with what they needed, which is a dedicated onboarding specialist, a dedicated customer success manager, more detailed analytics. So there's a lot more that's involved with the enterprise product that we didn't have in the clinic version before. And so that's what the enterprise offers now.
Gotcha. Now you mentioned some numbers. Obviously, COVID was a great catalyst
Mhm.
for telehealth, and you benefited from that. So give us some of the numbers so we can say how big should it grow, and then maybe even more important, like has it fallen off for a lot of users, or what are you seeing in that regard? What's kind of been the adoption for an average user?
Yeah, so pre-COVID, I haven't shared these numbers in a while, so I'm kind of rusty on them. We had about 70,000 users. We did about 12,000 sessions a day, and about 250,000 minutes a day pre-COVID.
Uh-huh.
At the height of COVID, we added 32,000 users in a single day.
Wow.
We had about 1 million sessions in a single day. And at our highest all time on a single day, we did about 16 to 17 million minutes in a single day. And that was the sessions and minutes, that was at a height in mid-April. Our highest sign-up total was the end of March. That was at the height. It's dropped down. We add about 800 to 1,000 users a day now. We have about 500,000, a little over 500,000 sessions a day. And I don't know how many minutes that is.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. You're still adding so many people. Is it people who used a different alternative, or do you see a lot of them are coming and they're like, okay, finally I got to do telehealth, or is it a mix of all of the above?
Yeah, what I suspect is, I mean, people had to use something, and so a lot of people went to Zoom, or they went to Google Meets, or they went to FaceTime, and are still figuring it out. But you try something for a while, and it's just like, I need something else, or I need to.
Right.
So we've consistently added that number, about 1,000 users a day since probably like June, July. So you had a ton of signups in the spring, and then it dropped down. But by about June, it's been about that, and it's been consistent in terms of utilization, minutes, and signups from June through now. It hasn't dropped off, and it's been fairly consistent. So, but yeah, I don't know. I think maybe our marketing team might know some more details. We are starting to ramp up. We've built a marketing team, so we're ramping up and doing more marketing. We are expanding internationally, so we're seeing signups in foreign markets, and where we weren't focused on that before. So yeah.
Well, I think it is interesting. I mean, obviously, a free product is a great option for the Rush telehealth implementation. So I think it's interesting that it's still being successful now when the Rush isn't quite as ominous, I guess, if you will.
Yeah.
It's not, people are taking a little more time and understanding. So I think that's interesting. But do you think you'll need to really expand the feature set and maybe the integrations to the EHR or other things like that in order to really be successful long term?
Yeah, Doximity just gets the job done. Providers just need to see their patient by video, and they need to do it as simply, easily, cheaply, without headaches as possible. And we solve that for them. And so we find Doximity very sticky because it is so simple. And people, they might ask for these other features, or, they ask like, oh, can you store data? Like, that's not the job of a telemedicine platform. That's your EHR's job to store data there. Our job is to create an awesome, simple video experience, and get the job done. And for a lot of our users, it solves that need. We do get people asking like, hey, does Doximity integrate with EHRs, or can you do that? But the answer is, it's so simple that it kind of already does. Like, if you want to embed a link within the EHR, you just create a button and put your room URL in there. The URL doesn't change for each provider. So you just put that in there, or the location of the appointment. Well, instead of saying 123 Anywhere Street, it's Doximity/your room link. And so when people are asking for, oh, does Doximity integrate with the EHR? Well, we don't store data. We don't collect patient data. So what do you mean by integration? Well, I want click a button, have it open in a window. Okay, you can do that now. Just go to your EHR, configure a button to open Doximity. Like, we're not like an Amwell or these other telemedicine products that try to collect data and are quasi EHR in some extent. We're purely just video, and that's what we do. We do it really well, and we leave the EHR to store and collect and manage the data. and we leave Doximity to be the video component. But we are working with to make it just that much easier to integrate Doximity. We're looking at adding a Doximity on Fire app to the App Orchard and the different EHR marketplaces and stuff like that. But really, the extent of it is going to be add a button within the interface to launch Doximity, or put a Doximity link within the scheduled appointment location, and it's a Doximity link. I mean, there's not much more that we really are interested in doing because we don't collect patient data, so there's not much more to do.
Yeah. Very interesting. Be interesting to see if people think that's enough. I imagine for at least some segment they'll like the simplicity and not trying to overthink it.
We get people tell us all the time, like, we love how simple Doximity is. Don't change it. Don't try to add a bunch of stuff. Don't make it more complicated. And we're like, trust us. We hear you. We're not interested in complexity.
Very cool. So speaking more broadly around telehealth and kind of where telehealth is going, I'm personally watching the reimbursement, environment, if you will, to understand how will telehealth settle long-term, like because we've seen some fall off already, right? Where obviously they can go back to the office, so they are. What are you seeing that really helps us understand where post-COVID telehealth homeostasis, if you will land, right? What are you watching to see, kind of where will telehealth be 2 years from now,
Yeah, so COVID was the best thing to happen to telemedicine, but also I think to the healthcare industry as a whole, because healthcare was run in an archaic model where a patient had to go in to see the provider.
Yeah.
We don't go to the bank anymore. I mean, who goes to the bank to deposit a check? Like we take a picture of it, we send it in. Who goes to a travel agent anymore to order a flight? We just do all this stuff remotely. But yet healthcare was still stuck on, you have to come in person. And it was archaic, and it was difficult to get providers to change that mentality. Then COVID hit, everybody got thrown in the pool and said, you guys got to swim, you got to do it, or you're going to drown. So catch up. It forced everybody to change their paradigm and to provide care remotely by video. And at first it's just like, I can't do this, it's too complicated. But then they do it and they realize, you know what, I can swim after all. This isn't that bad. I can continue to do that. I think when COVID ultimately goes away, it may never go away. There's probably going to be like the flu, it's cyclical, right? So this is really a new normal of cautiousness, social distancing, and it's going to be hard to get, especially patients, to come into a clinic when they've felt the convenience of, you mean I can stay at home and not get in the car and go take a half a day off and I can still see my provider? This is awesome. I want to go back. And it's going to be hard to get people to go back. So I think telemedicine is definitely here to stay. And then with regards to the reimbursement piece, insurers are going to do what makes sense and what helps their bottom line ultimately. They've been slow to adopt telemedicine because of the fear of overutilization, that if telemedicine is available, people utilize it too much. And they also fear that the quality of care wasn't as good. Well, and so they were like, these are the excuses, we don't want to try something new. So they kept the healthcare industry in that old archaic model. COVID forced it. They had to relax all those restrictions. The government relaxed a lot of restrictions around this as well. They started reimbursing for these things. Now we've got a whole year of data to show that, hey, you know what? Telemedicine is as good as in-person care in many ways. Not in every case, but in most cases, it's good enough, and patients are satisfied. You're getting good outcomes. And guess what? It's actually cheaper because you get people showing up to these appointments more, so you get less no-show rates. You have less overhead expenses, so you don't have people coming in and paying, or you have the lights and the brick and mortar expenses. So we've even had some of our providers say they just canceled their office leases and are just going purely remote. These are mental health providers, they can do it. But they're like, I had this huge overhead that now I just cut out, and all the money that I was charging is now coming to me. I'm able to make more money because of that. Now that's providers. Insurance providers are also starting to question that and say, wait, part of this fee that we're paying you, this reimbursement, is to cover this brick and mortar cost. If you're not in the brick and mortar building providing care, do we have to pay as much? And what I expect to see happen is that insurance providers will figure this out and will start reimbursing a little bit less for telemedicine, but enough that there's enough meat on the bone that providers will still do it. And so it's gonna cut their revenue that was essentially going to pay for the brick and mortar space, but it's fine because you use something like Doxime and you don't have much cost anyway, and they're able to keep doing it. So in the end, there's gonna be a net positive, and there's gonna be some adjustments with reimbursement and revenue to get to the right level. But I honestly, the telemedicine, a lot of these insurance reimbursements in the fee that's paid to providers has a baked in overhead cost for brick and mortar running a clinic. If providers don't have that, they probably shouldn't be still taking that overhead fee, maybe not to the full extent. And so I'm encouraging them I would encourage them to do what makes sense, what's right, and offer less overhead expense because Doxime is free, or it's a very low cost. You don't need to make as much to cover brick and mortar costs because you're using stuff by telemedicine. So I'm not against them dropping the rates a little bit. I would be against it dropping it below what market rate is for caring for a patient, making it infeasible, not possible to care for a patient remotely. But it does make sense to have some type of balance there, because you don't need to pay brick and mortar overhead if you're not using brick and mortar for care.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many make the shift to really remove that overhead so they can do that kind of lower cost.
We could use, the insurance providers could break it out, and they could say, look, we'll pay you for the care. If you do it by telemedicine, we'll pay you this much. If you do it by in person, we'll pay you this much. And then, it's up to the provider and the patient to decide. But either way, they're getting reimbursed for the services provided.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, I've heard a number of patients who said, now the doctor can't tell me, no, I can't do telemedicine, because they proved that they can.
Right.
So
right.
That just changes the conversation just right there between the patients. So,
and really patients are going to drive the demand for telemedicine. And if they're going to say, doctor, I want to see you by video. If you can't do it by video, I'm going to go find another doctor. Now the doctors have to respond to what the market is demanding, which is to be seen by video. And a lot of patients have the taste for it. It's gonna be hard to get them to go back.
Yeah, great. So what's on the horizon for Doxime and for telehealth?
For Doxime, we've got a lot of cool, fun features coming out. We're building a marketplace, essentially an app store for the Doxime. So we see Doxime as a platform similar to the iPhone. And we provide the basic functionality, but we allow third-party app developers to come on and extend the functionality of Doxime through the app store or through the marketplace. And so that's going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. We have it in beta right now, so some users do get this. And so the first thing we rolled out is translation, interpretation. So if you come on Spanish speaking, we can pull an interpreter in. Other things that we're going to be adding. We're moving everything to this marketplace, the whiteboard, moving all of our extensions to the marketplace. We have a chatbot that we're working on, a DocBot that we're going to start integrating, so providers will be able to automate the check-in process. So instead of having a receptionist or medical assistant there to check in a patient and collect vitals and collect payments, we're going to automate that with our DocBot. So it's essentially a virtual receptionist. Nice. So that's going to be coming out. And then we have so many different health IT vendors and products saying, hey, can we plug in here? Can we plug in here? That's all going to be routed through this marketplace. And so again, we see Doxime as this platform for video communication, and then the marketplace is where other third-party app developers can come in and add their functionality to the Doxime experience. And so that's really where the future of Doxime is.
Nice. Well, it makes sense. You need the notification vendors, you need the form vendors, you need the remote interpretation vendors. I mean, there's a whole suite of companies that make sense to integrate with your solution. So pretty cool. Cool. Well, thanks so much, Brandon, for sharing these insights. Appreciate you taking time to help us learn more about Doxy.me. Thanks everyone for watching. If you want to find more great health IT content like this, be sure to check it out at healthcareittoday.com. Thanks, Brandon.
Cool. Thank you so much. It was fun.